Going into the submarine service, though, wasn't merely a box to check off.
So there was quite an involved screening process. And the ultimate screening process, of course, was going to be personally interviewed by Admiral Hyman Rickover at the Naval Reactors headquarters, Washington, D.C. Rickover was an interesting guy. He actually was Jewish and was a graduate of the Naval Academy in, I believe, in the 1920s. Actually encountered some amount of anti-Semitism when he was at the Naval Academy, is my understanding. Yep, but he went on to be one of the most famous admirals of all time in the United States Navy. Very much no nonsense. His engineers came to him when they were developing the very first reactor for submarines. And they said, we've been working on this shielding for this thing because this thing's going to put out a bunch of radiation. We got to protect the sailors, but we're going to need a waiver. We're going to have to expose these submarine sailors to all of this radiation, and it's 100 times above the limit that's been set by the Atomic Energy Commission. And Rickover threw his pen down and stood up and started yelling at him and said, you guys are going to figure out a way to build a shield for that reactor that only exposes submarine sailors to a radiation amount 100 times below the limit. Like, it can't be done. And he said, come back when you have a plan for how it's gonna be done. And he threw him out of his office. And sure enough, about 3 months later, they all kind of tromped back in and said, okay, we figured it out. So I had to go be interviewed by Rickover, which after, if he's going to throw a team of the most brilliant engineers out of his office, I had the pleasure of going to DC and spending an entire day there at Naval Reactors. And it consisted of 3 interviews with 3 of his engineers and grilled me about an hour and a half each. I literally broke the plane of his office door, and he screamed at the top of his lungs, "Why are your grades so bad?" And I stopped like a deer in the headlights, and the commander behind me literally pushed me into his office and said, "Go sit in the chair."